I appreciate that. Would you be a family member? Would you be a mother who's going to tell me that the five of you sleep in one bed, including with the baby? Yeah.
Okay.
So, so Sherry, I'm going to call you Stephanie, okay?
Okay.
So, so Stephanie, tell me about your sleeping. Where does everybody sleep?
Well, currently, right now, we're all sleeping in the same bed, you know?
Yeah, what's working about that for you?
Well, I mean, I like being close to the kids, and knowing when they can get up or I can hear them, so I'm right there. It's much easier to breastfeed when you have a newborn right there, and it's just easier
Right.
sometimes.
So as a concerned mother, which you are, you like knowing where everybody is. You like
I should
having everybody.
absolutely. I like to make sure my children are safe.
It's a way to make sure that they're safe. Now I'm going to affirm. Okay, did you see what just happened? I'm going to affirm Stephanie for being safety. You really care about the safety of your kids.
I
So
sure do.
it's
Mhm.
great having them together. You know where they are. Nobody's getting in trouble because they're all right there. And it's easier to breastfeed the baby.
Sure.
Yeah. And so you've got the baby right there, and that's really working. Can I ask you, Stephanie, is there anything that doesn't work for you about having everybody in the same bed?
Well, sure. I mean, I don't have a lot of room to roll around and I can get uncomfortable and then the dog's on my feet too.
Oh, so
Cat's
you've got
usually up near my neck, so yeah, it gets a little crowded.
so you've got seven people in the bed with you, five
Yeah.
five humans, one dog, and one cat, and it gets a little crowded.
Oh, sure. And I get really hot too.
Yeah, right, because everybody's just crowded in with each other. Yeah,
Yeah,
anything
that is
else?
true.
Anything else not work about it besides it's crowded, you don't get your space, and it gets hot?
Well, I think that it's probably not giving the kids their best sleep either.
Oh, really? What makes you think that?
Well, the baby wakes up, every couple hours to eat and ends up waking up the other children. And
Oh,
I don't think that that's good for their sleeping because a lot of
uh,
times they're grumpy in the morning.
yeah. You know that getting enough sleep as a kid is important, and you're kind of noticing that the baby wakes everybody up, and then the kids are grumpy in the morning. Yeah. So there's not enough room. You get overheated. You're crowded. Uh, Not everybody's sleeping the whole night because people are moving around. The baby's crying. Anything else not working about being in the same bed?
Not I can think of right at this moment.
Okay, great. So on the one hand, it's really great having everybody together. You know everybody's safe. It's convenient for nursing the baby. And on the other hand, it's crowded. You get hot. The kids don't get a full night's sleep. And so
That's
it's kind
very
of good.
true.
It's really true, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I
Let's
mean,
say
not in real life. I have a 12-year-old, but he sleeps in his own bed.
it's okay. We know you're playing a role. Let's hear it for Sherry. That was beautiful, Sherry. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
So
Let
I
me,
apologize. I had to run out and go down. I got a call to go down and talk to my boss, so I missed this. So when I came in and I heard Sherry talking about the baby nursing, I'm like, what is happening? What is happening?
oh, you didn't know that about Sherry.
Apologies.
Let's see. What did you notice happening there? How would you describe what I was doing in that conversation with Stephanie that Sherry was playing? How would you describe what I was doing there? Feel free to put it in the chat or unmute and tell us how that looked to you.
To me, it was almost kind of like thinking out loud for her. Like she was kind of like you do a pros cons. You're kind of just thinking about what's the positives, what's the negatives. Sometimes you can evaluate something better when you can kind of hear it or see it.
Right. And did you notice I'm not thinking for her. I'm inviting her to think for herself. I'm just organizing what she's telling me.
Yes, I was thinking about like facilitating her thought process.
I'm facilitating her thought, her decision making about the bed, right? Because if we think that everybody who's sleeping in the same bed loves what they're doing, we're missing the boat. There's good and there's bad to it, right? Sherry does. I'm sure as a mother of five, she would like to have her own space, right? She's not enjoying being crowded. And did you notice she has safety as a value for her? So now we can use that later on in the conversation if we want to introduce the idea of what is a safe sleep behavior with an infant, right? Because she's already told us safety is important for her. Right, Lake and Van Corn, thank you for this. The older kids need to be out of the bed. Five is a lot. It's not safe for the baby. Right. Lakin, beautiful. The question is, how do we introduce that idea to Stephanie? Do we come in like an expert and we inform her, by the way, Stephanie, older kids need to be out of the bed? What's the effect of that if we take that approach? What's the effect of that going to have on the mother who is the decision maker? Is the mother going to appreciate us telling her what she should and shouldn't do with the kids? Possibly yes, possibly no. Chances are she won't appreciate it. So and you're exactly right. The question is, how do we have a conversation with her about it so she comes to the conclusion this isn't a good idea anymore? Does that make sense? Give me a head nod if that's making sense, right? So we want to have the conversation so Stephanie comes to the conclusion. Sherry, we're going to pick that conversation up a little bit later. Would that be okay with you?
Of course.
Melody. So Melody has the idea. I would ask the mom what would make the sleeping arrangements better. Yeah, that could. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and do this, Sherry. Since you're here, um, so I'm going to give. This is the fourth skill that I'd like to teach you. We call this a double-sided reflection. Would everybody do this, please, with their hands? No, this isn't milking a cow, although it feels like milking a cow. This is this is the universal sign of ambivalence. Ambivalence means feeling two ways about something. Stephanie, in our role play here, feels two ways about something. On the one hand, she likes having the kids close. She feels calm because everybody's safe. On the other hand, it's hot, it's crowded. The kids aren't sleeping well, right?
Right.
So I could simply say, if I just had 5 minutes, I could simply say to Stephanie, so on the one hand, here's what works about it. It's fun, it's cuddly, it's safe, you know where the kids are. The baby's right there. It's easy to nurse. On the other hand, it's crowded, you get hot, the kids aren't sleeping well. How does this look to you as we're just kind of talking about it?
Mm. It looks like I have a little bit too much going on in my bed at night, and not in a good way.
Hmm. You're starting to think about whether this is good for you or not.
Right.
What's making you think maybe this isn't good for your family?
Oh, I mean, sometimes halfway through the night, my husband gets angry and he goes to the couch, and I mean that frees up a little bit of room, but it's still just too crowded, and I worry that these kids are never going to get out of my bed.
Hmm. Yeah, right. How do you transition them out after they've been in the mothership, all safe and cozy? Yeah,
Yeah, it
these
would
are
be
great.
it would be nice to have my space back so that my husband and I can share our bed.
Hmm. Yeah, it would be nice to have your space back so you and your husband could share the bed. He'd probably enjoy that too.
I,
Yeah,
I'd hope so.
yeah. All right. So what's happening here? Sherry's coming to her own conclusion. Stephanie's coming to her own conclusion that maybe this isn't the best choice for her or for her family. I haven't even pulled out a pamphlet yet.
Don't need a pamphlet for a conversation.
Say that again.
You don't need a pamphlet for a conversation.
Don't need a pamphlet for a conversation. Okay, we will come back to this because I want to spend a little bit more time. Melody, Lakin, you're asking great questions here. I'm not going to ask them yet in this role play just because I want to introduce you to a couple other ideas. Let's see if there are any other thoughts or comments on the role play that we're having up to this point. Anyone else have any thoughts or comments?
It makes me think of the interaction between the second doctor and the guy who had the drunk driving incident. The defenses are down. She's not like defensive about it because you've kind of created a situation where she can comfortably talk about it and share without feeling judged or something like that.
Yep, Leah, thank you so much. You're anticipating my very next slide. This is exactly, whoops, that's too much. This is exactly how motivational interviewing works. It creates safety so the client can think about the choices they're making. So this is the brain, it's kind of this direction from the side. So this is the prefrontal cortex up here, the forehead area of the brain. This is the brain stem going down to the spinal column. Here's the amygdala. That's the part of the brain that's in charge of defensiveness. It's in charge of the fight or flight reaction, giving adrenaline all through the body. If we don't create safety, if we push the client into a corner, they're going to get defensive. If we try to tell them what to do, they're going to get defensive. Guess what happens when the amygdala gets activated? This part of the brain goes offline. All the energy goes into protecting, defending, and fighting. For motivational interviewing, we want this part of the brain to come back online. And the way that we do that is create safety. Does anybody remember what the prefrontal cortex is in charge of? Why do we want this part of the brain to come back online? Who can tell me what's the prefrontal? This is the last part of the brain to get wired. The brain gets wired from the inside out. I'll give
Personality.
Personality, yeah.
It's your decision-making skills.
Yes.
Your decision-making skills, right. Cheyenne, anything else to add there? No? Okay. So decision-making skills, what's involved? So this is executive functioning. What else is involved? Well, language, thinking about future consequences. That's a big part of what happens up in this part of the brain, right? In this part of the brain, we're just thinking about the next 5 seconds. How are we going to survive the next 5 seconds? In this part of the brain, we're thinking about the long-term effects of our behavior. As I said, the brain gets wired from the inside out. Does anybody remember how long does it take? At what age does this part of the brain get wired up for boys? Does anybody remember this? If you got a Cheyenne Shipley, what do you got? You want to unmute and take a guess? When does this part of the brain get wired for boys?
26 or 25?
Exactly, age 25. Let's hear it. Excellent. Right. This is why teenage boys do such crazy stuff, because this part of their brain isn't even online yet. Girls, it gets wired up much quicker for very good reasons. They have more concerns about future consequences. Boys, they're doing crazy stuff because this part of the brain isn't even thinking. If you say to a boy, what were you thinking? They weren't thinking, right? That part of the brain isn't even wired in yet. Not completely. I mean, we can invite it to get wired in by hanging out and creating safety. So when Sherry, who's playing Stephanie, says, now that you've laid it out for me, Sky, I'm thinking this isn't so good for us. What is she doing? She's telling us that her prefrontal cortex, she's thinking about this in a new way. If I came in and started with a pamphlet and said, we've decided it's not safe for babies to be sleeping in the same bed with you, are you doing that? Well, yeah. Right? Now she's going to be amygdala activated and it's going to go downhill. Any other thoughts or comments on that? Leah, perfect call. That's just where we were going. We want to create safety so that the client can think about what we're talking about in the conversation. Any other thoughts or comments at this point? All right, let's keep going. Let me see where we are. We've got an hour. Let's take a look at two videos here. So here we've got a mother who's smoking, and she's meeting with her pediatrician, and the pediatrician has some advice for her. Let's look at two